do that. Oh, let's do a quick recap. Anybody have any takeaways from today? Anybody have any quick takeaways before I jump into my takeaways? Okay. Great. So kind of what I would be looking at. Thanks, Khalid. Khalid says, be light to sustain a move against you. I think that is honestly the key. And it is good. And I'd say that a lot. Let me just mute my annotations over here so I can talk. So I do that a lot. I say it a lot, like be light against the move against you, right? The other thing is knowing of areas to be light. Like we talked about just a second ago, right? Like we looked at on the one, this happens all the time. And I want to point this out today as a recap. On the 1 minute chart, we looked at doing a fib retracement. I'm going to pull that up real quick off of this move. And this is what I want to show you guys, because even though it crossed that 61.8%, there is another one. And somebody, I don't know the exact, it's like 72. Is it 72? Guys, what is it? And most of these Fibonacci tools don't show you that, right? 78, thank you. And I don't know what that is off the top of my head, because most of these Fib retracement tools don't teach you that. But knowing that this is where it could turn, you see this quite often, right? It doesn't mean that it's going to go 61, all of a sudden it's going to go all the way down to 100%. And so what I look for is the action point right here off of this. There's another one right here. And so the body never closed below this action point. And I bet if we were to get a 78% right there, it would probably align with this right here, 78%. And so by knowing that, you kind of know that, hey, you know what? The fib still did what I wanted it to do. But that secret line right there, because generally speaking, what most people tell you on the fib is that if it crosses this line, it's probably going to come down and touch this. Crosses this, it's probably going to come down and touch this. Crosses this, it's probably going to come down and touch this. But this, you got to also look at this right here, because a lot of times it doesn't come down and touch that 100% line just because it crossed, right? And so by knowing that, you can look to be the thing that I saw is that, yes, I was still selling, and he should have been still selling, because I didn't think it was going to come up here and cross this. I thought it was going to come up here and bounce. And so I sold here. But once I got confident, and I said I was going to sell up to here, once it crossed here, I said, now I'm going to look to buy. Now I'm going to be a buyer here, right? However, I needed to fix my trades. And so I needed to look for opportunities to fix the trades. Got out of a good layer here, started to sell. I still sold only because of this candle right here. I thought that this candle would have been like an exhaustion bar, and it's a perfectly set up for an exhaustion bar or a pullback trade, because you don't get any price cycle move to the downside followed by an abnormal candle. And one of my abnormal candles, my high probability, is I always trade 50% off of an abnormal candle. And I did just that, right? And the only thing I'm going to tell you is that the only time I don't take this trade, the only time I don't take like a heavy layer here where I'm getting in heavy, the only time I don't take that trade is if this exhaustion bar or abnormal candle jumps above a major support or resistance area. So it goes above here or below here for a break. That's the only time I don't take that. And I look to see the action of the candle, and we didn't get that. So I don't want to talk too much about the only time I don't, but any time that I'm in what I consider to be normal area of trading, I take that almost 100% of the time, right? So again, with a high probability trade setup, it's a level 3 technique where I'm stacking more trades on, a higher trade stack on, because it's high probability. Now, the same thing though, if it doesn't pan out, get out, right? But it does pan out more often than it doesn't, which is I'm just trading for 50% of this move down to this action, got out of a layer here, got out of some trades here, and started adjusting my trades to see if I could get that reset back to zero, right? And so those are the things that I'm looking at in my head. I'm thinking, okay, we just got this exhaustion bar, meaning that if it's a breakout bar or an exhaustion bar, it should have not only given me a 50% retracement, but I was looking for 100% retracement off of that bar. If we would have got 100% retracement, I would have said it would continue to fall. Because it failed to break a body lower than 50%, right there is a good indication that it's going to come back and test this top, right? I was still nursing some trades at this point. I wasn't out of everything. So, and it nursed the top. It broke above this. And guess what? I played this again the exact same way. This time, it didn't break above this on a body, but it did give me a break above this with a larger candle all the way up to here with another exhaustion bar or a fake out, which is another setup of a high probability because it was the first attempt. And so I was able to smack again a larger layer here, get in and get out of all of my trades. I just closed out everything right here, right? For almost a break-even situation. And then this is when we moved into the challenge right here. And so I kind of want the takeaways that I want you guys to have is that anytime during your trading session, if you see a bigger bar, right here, if you see bigger bars, you play those as kind of exhaustion bars. I often call them abnormal candles. And they really do help to fix a lot of your trades, particularly when you're not getting price cycle action. So you kind of got this little bit of a marching market like we talked about here. Look how fast it came down and then it slowly rode up, right? Slowly rode up and then followed by a huge expansion. To me, if I'm trading this, I'm smacking into sells off of this as much as I can, as hard as I can. And I'm hoping that if I can get in, I'm hoping that 50% of this candle right here will help me to fix these layers down here. And it did. I just didn't take advantage of the opportunity. It's a little bit harder for me. And I felt that also, Khalid, I should have done that. But it's harder for me to do that in MT4 than it is on Alveo, because the speed of placing trades is so much faster in Alveo than it is on MT4. And so I wasn't able to get into a lot of trades here or here as much as I probably would have because of the speed of execution. And it quickly, anytime you get an abnormal breakout, you have to be fast. You have to be ready to take advantage of that because it only happens a minute, right? This is a minute candle and then down here. And if you miss it, you miss it. But again, I look for these opportunities all the time to either fix my trades or gobble up profit. And it happens almost every single trading session where you're going to get something that is not typical, right? The market here going up, going down, price cycling up, price cycling down, price cycling up, price cycling down, going up, and then another price cycle. So that's kind of my recap for today is trading, basically trading a market that was slow at first and then picked up. So we had two different types of markets in this trading in today, right? And if we look at it, when we first started, we were getting price cycles of 5. A little bit less than, 5 to 8. And so we were basically saying when we started, we're like, any profit that we get, we're going to put it in the bank. We're going to look for little tiny profits, like 3 pips, 4 pips, any profit that we get, because that's what you should be doing here. right? And then once it came and passed here, now we're looking for fading opportunities. We're no longer looking for 3-pip money in the bank. We're looking for opportunities to double down on our layers. We're also looking for opportunities to kind of turn it into a ride the wave. Right this second, looking at the 1 and the 5, I would look for it to kind of, if it breaks this level right here, breaks above this level, I'd look for it to come up and test that, right? And so I'm a buyer only until it crosses this with the body, right? And so that's the way I identify or I approach markets every single day. Where am I a buyer? Where am I a seller? Right? And there's my flipping points. And anyways, that's kind of my recap on the day. Anybody have anything that they'd like to add to or take away from, or completely say anything? Just looking at the comments real quick.
With the exhaustion bar, do you consider the timing, like whether it's the first half of the minute or the second half where you start putting fading, or you just, as soon as you realize it is actually an exhaustion bar, you start fading?
So that's a great question. That's a really good question. So as soon as it starts, I start fading, because you tend to get this wick right here. And those wicks happen really quickly. And so if I started fading, I'm able to jump on, 3, 4, 5 pips really quick. However, if it doesn't give me the wick, it should give you a wick inside of like 5 seconds. Right. And don't quote me on that, but the point is it gives you a wick really quickly. And if it doesn't wick really quickly, I stop building in. So, meaning that if the action comes up here on this candle and it's like this, I start stacking into trades, and then all of a sudden it didn't wick, I stop. Because generally speaking, you're going to get a continuation of that move. And then I'd put more on here. And then I look for a 50% of the whole entire move. Does that make sense? And so that was a really good question. It really depends on a minute. You got to be really quick because it happens really quick. So if it does start to wick down, so if you get a candle like this, right, and then you get a wick, I'll start putting layers. And then if it starts putting in, I'll start putting, like one layer here. And as soon as it starts getting into wicks, I'll start stacking in as many trades as I can until I get that body, right, which is about right here. And then you usually get that continuation. Then I just gobble up my profits right here. And I start taking those guys off and all that kind of stuff. And so there's a couple different techniques that you can deploy, but mainly it depends on whether or not you get that wick or not. So does that answer your question, Khalid?
Yeah.
So anybody else have any questions on today? How did we do as a whole? Anybody have a good day? Okay day? I mean, this is not like the best market conditions, but you definitely should have been able to pull 1% off of these market conditions, and maybe even more if you didn't get stuck like I did on some sells right in this area. Let's see. Remy did great. Anybody else want to share real quick on how they did? If not, there's always tomorrow, right? The goal is it doesn't really matter. The goal is that it doesn't really matter how much you make as long as you're going in the right direction, right? So Friday was kind of a rough day for me, but I was able to recover all of that and then some because I was able to, on camera, it was rough. But guess what happened outside of camera? I mean, it was pretty easy to get into buys and just let it ride. So I think we stopped trading somewhere in here is when I took the losses on Friday on this big loss right here. And then I kind of stopped trading right here and then just gobbled up all this pretty much. I just kind of set it and let it run on some trades. And so that was able to recover on a lot of my trades. Definitely, I pulled it all the way up to close too. I traded all the way up to close and I got out right before the weekend started because I felt like it was going to pop down before the weekend started. So, and then I traded a little bit last night or yesterday inside of here and just kind of recovered and then some on my trades. So anyways, it was good. Friday turned into a good day after a loss, and you just got to be able to take. The key for this trading session, and the point for this trading session is being able to adjust your trades so that you don't turn I don't want to I should have, right? I don't want to take them. I don't want to take my losses to I should have taken my losses. And we've all been there. We've all said, man, I should have took that loss when I had the opportunity. So the thing that I would say is take the loss. And even if it goes in your favor, be okay with taking that loss, because it's always better to fix a $10 loss than a $100 loss. It's just, in my mind, it's just always better to fix that, right? And so take the smaller loss and be okay with it. Anyways, that being said, I think we're going to end it there. Guys, thank you so much. We will do this again tomorrow. I may start changing it up a little bit. If you guys want to trade, instead of just showing me all the time, maybe me a couple times and start trading with you guys, we could do that too. I just want a little bit more, just changing it up a little bit more. Different pairs, whatever we want to do, just kind of changing it up. All right, guys, thank you. And we'll see you guys tomorrow.